Is it just lots of coffee and no sleep, or?
That's definitely top 3. I was going to say beer, carbs, seam ripper. That's about it. That's all you need.
Hi, welcome back to the Film Race series. I'm Karen.
I'm Steph.
And today we're going to be talking about wardrobe and costume design. All right, today we have Steph Hyder with us. She does a ton of our costume design and wardrobe for Starwipe Films, and I'm really excited to dive a little deeper with her because while Brian and Robin and I could talk about these things, it's definitely better to come from the queen herself of costume design. Seriously, you're amazing.
That's the queen. So I actually have a background in fashion design, which is my bachelor's from Marymount University, and I actually did the fashion design program there, which I loved. And I'm minored in studio art, so I love all things creative, artistic, that have to do with textiles and designing dimensional stuff, mainly with fabric, but other stuff too. But when you graduate college in Arlington, Virginia, there's not a lot of fashion design happening.
What?
So there was a lot of retail jobs until I got to a local brewery. I was doing the retail end in their store there. And then I got linked up with an amazing filmmaker, Tim Martin, who was also there at the time. And we started doing promo videos for the place. So that was really my first costume gig. It was actually a queen also was my very first costuming job. We rented dogs. It was in a junkyard. It was nuts.
Wait, how do you rent dogs?
I don't know. He found a company.
Okay.
He found a company that was trained,
Okay.
Trained you need dogs to look vicious and scary.
Oh.
And then that was crazy because that's a fun, side thing you don't expect as a costume designer to be exposed to as a dog person. I'm like, oh, hey, do not make eye contact with these animals. I'm like, okay, got it.
Wow.
Actually, they ended up tearing apart the dress. I had to make a duplicate. Anyway, so I kind of branched out. I was like, where else can I do this in the area? When we moved here, I didn't know how artsy Frederick really could be and how creative the scene was, especially downtown. So I started looking up, what theaters are around, what other places could I do this at? And I ended up working at the Met off and on for about 5 years, the Maryland Ensemble Theater downtown here. I've also done stuff with Frederick Town Players, a little bit at FCC, a little bit at McDaniel College. So kind of making connections where other directors would branch out other places, but they had their kind of put together team of designers and kind of go wherever they would go if they needed people, depending on scheduling. But so yeah, and I just love it. I love costuming and Frederick and how much it's actually needed in the area. Worked out pretty good.
Recap a little bit how we ended up started working together. You would think it would be we met at a theater performance or a
something
film
that had to
race
do
or
with
something.
what we do. Our kids went to school together. They kind of buddied up, and we could tell they liked each other and kind of meshed really well. And then it got to the point of, time to pick up the kids, and parents are waiting in line, teachers are dismissing, and we're noticing one person from each couple that we are would be the last to pick up their kid because the teacher would be like, I need to talk to you guys.
Yeah. Sometime after all that, we were like, hey, why don't you join us on a film race, right?
Yeah, I think it was I don't know. I wish we could go back in time and be like, so what do you do? Sophia was the first one. I don't know if it was you or Brian was like, hey, do you know where we could borrow or get or find some cloaky things and drab colored, period, but really simple type costuming and garments. And I was like, yeah, the theater that I'm at. So I grabbed a collection of that and we borrowed those. And then that is how all of these other things that we got to do together happened.
Okay, so then jump to 2019 and it's the year we decided to make a space movie.
I remember that year and I was like, okay, I need to let them know I don't actually have the whole time to do anything from scratch. And then it's like, we're not gonna be able to rent anything. So then by that point I had lost a good chunk. I mean, probably half the time of the competition in terms of when you needed the costuming done by, not the whole weekend of filming and the project and process, but like costume wise getting done. So it's like, okay, now I have even less time, but it all fell into place really well, and it looked really good on camera. It
Amazing.
Stayed on her, did what it needed to do.
Okay, so when you come on to like one of these film races, do you pretty much work like siloed, like by yourself, or do you have anyone else that you lean on?
As far as like producing the end result product with my hands and like the skill set and the construction of it, it's mainly just me, but the dreaming up of it obviously is like a creative team effort. It's like my job is to just utilize what I can do and the resources I have to make Brian's, yours, everyone's vision come to life. If there's any like functionality that needs to be a part of it, things like that. So
I feel like though a lot of times we just throw things at you. We're like, here's ideas. You actually take it and make it doable or look good. Okay, is this possible? Like, take this.
Yeah. And probably the answer should be no to a lot of things of is this possible? But like that's part of the challenge is, I don't know how to do that, but let's go figure that out.
I mean, that's something we always talk about on this channel is like doing these film races allows you to like try new things out and to be a little risky in some areas where you might not be able to, like for like a client or just in other areas. And so we love that we can try out like a new piece of gear, or we can try out a new visual effect. And Brian loves doing that. He's always like, let's push it even further this year with this effect or something. So
we don't know what we're doing, but we're going to make it work. We'll find a way to make all the things happen.
Yeah. What are like some of your go-to tools or methods, or is it just lots of coffee and no sleep, or?
That's definitely top 3. I was gonna say beer, carbs, seam ripper. That's about it. That's all you need. Like right off the bat, I know that I visually and mentally need the organization of Pinterest boards. If we're trying to describe things to each other, but we're having a hard time, 1, finding the words for it, or 2, we just don't know what the other one's talking about, we can together find these visuals and inspiration. And once you get in the zone of like the direction you want it to go and the direction I know you guys want it to go, it helps just kind of fine tune where I need to start with constructing it, and like having the categories of it where it's like, makeup, if we're trying to do that and have things, coordinate and be cohesive, even hair sometimes, even, if it's like, sometimes I even look for like a female version or a male version, and just kind of take components from both because of what I wouldn't otherwise think of for the other or something like that. Just all kinds of different factors and like roots of getting to that final point.
Yeah.
And definitely seam ripper, just because mistakes always happen because you're sewing fast because you haven't slept and you need to fix mistakes pretty often.
Yeah.
And then also just like stuff on me, like instead of like, I always walk in circles in real life anyway, but a waist apron with like safety pins, extra thread needles, scissors, things like that. Once in a while, like bobby pins, hairspray, random things. So I don't have to like go find where it is. It's just on me, so I don't have to think about it.
Yeah. What are like some ways that you go about making things without breaking the budget?
I'm the kind of creator that once I know what is, has been dreamt up or what I want it to look like, even if I don't think I have enough time or resources, I'll still figure it out because I want it to be as good as we know it could be and should be. So sometimes I don't stay within the budget. What I have learned through the years for theater and lower budget type of projects is thrifting is a huge advantage. 1, because of the cost. 2, because Frederick has some great, all kinds of funky personality types where thrift stores have fun stuff. 3, I mean, I can look at something and see what it obviously is, but I can envision what I could use it for or adapt it to or repurpose it as. So I've definitely built on that, not skill, but like element of it.
It's a skill.
I think it's just from practice too. I mean, the fact that I have had to look for things that if it's not just as easy as going on Amazon, it's got to be like an authentic era piece or, which eBay is also good for, but that can get pricey.
It also takes more time if you're
takes
you have to
time,
get it
yeah.
shipped.
So Amazon, I have a love-hate relationship because it's fast, but it's the worst. It's a good tool, but it's it makes it harder sometimes because like this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but I can't make it in enough time, so I'll just order this one and adapt it. Yeah. It's difficult sometimes just because I get so focused on making the end product what it should be and what I want it to be. But if I'm thrifting at the beginning of the project, then I've got a little bit of money left by the end of it of like, oh, I forgot about this detail, or I changed, we have a new idea about something, or it's like, well, we need a duplicate because we decided this first one's going to get destroyed halfway through filming or something. So I try to plan ahead with like cut myself off at, less than what the budget is. So I know I have some wiggle room, but it's hard. It's hard to do because I would rather put my name on something that should be what I have in my head than settle for, okay, well, I've hit my limit, so this is what it's going to be. I'm not good at that. Like, there were times where, not with you guys, but like other stuff, it would just be like, I'll spend 20 of my own dollars. It'll look much better. And I'm like, that's a bad habit.
With time, or maybe not direct, like money being like changed hands, but just like time and like level of effort with our own clients, it's like we're not really getting paid to do this much work or this level of work, but like, why would we do it any less?
Exactly. It's like you can't calibrate based on the monetary amount because it's like, well, yeah, you don't want to put your name on something that could be less than what you're capable of really doing for a project.
That's tough.
So it
as
makes
an
it
artist in general.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's okay to like do that sometimes, but you just don't want to live in that place.
Right.
You don't want that to be your norm.
It teaches you when, you learn and get better at what things to say yes to and what things to say no to, in addition to what teams and people and directors and designers that you do click really well with and are worth the extra effort, even if it's a lower budget or if it's like a personal project. Things like you can gauge a lot better with time and projects, what's worthwhile. So
there's a level of trust there too with like with you, like we know that if we ask you to do something, you're going to be honest about like what you can do, but like, that you will get something done. It might not be exactly what you're envisioning, but it's going to be probably better than what we're even envisioning. And then there's also like the return trust where that when we're working on like a project, we're going to finish it. We're going to, we're not going to abuse your time. We totally value your time, and we're gonna do our best to like take care of you and make sure we pay you back for the things that you have paid for. We're also gonna like feed you when you're on set, and just like and then make a good product that a lot of times between the two things you end up getting like awards or getting nominated, or like you bring the whole value of the film up so that the whole film can get nominated for things. And that's all, it's a good partnership, but there's just a level of trust there because we've been able to work together on so many projects, both in Star Wipe and like on the professional side too. So
definitely.
I guess, what's your favorite part about working on film races rather than like other like professional?
I mean, there's definitely like more adrenaline driving it because of the time limit. It's weird. It's like live theater has fast pacing too because everything's guaranteed to go wrong at tech week. You have to reevaluate, redo this and that. But, with film, it's like so fast paced and the target is constantly moving. But at the same time, it's nice to like, if you can reshoot something, you can pause, or like, for instance, this little guy has blood on it somewhere. And You know, if I was using that again, I would be like, oh, wait, let me wipe that off. You can't do that in theater. You're just sitting there like, ugh, I can't do anything about this. It's driving me crazy. So I love the fast pace of it. That's a different kind of fast pace, and that just the camaraderie, and everyone's got to be problem solving together. So I really like what comes from the deadline of a short time period. I think that's really cool. And the pushing yourself to like decision make. That's the thing I have a hard time with. Knowing I just have to like cut the idea off at a point, even though that never happens. It's changing constantly until it's in front of the camera. Sometimes also in front of the camera.
I think decision making is hard for any artist in any field. And so, yeah, deadlines are so key to get things done. And there's no more urgent deadline than a film race, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to get to that finalized point. I'm very bad at knowing when I'm done with something because I could constantly just keep working on it. So being in a film race pushes you to make that decision of here's as much as I can do, even though I will always end up doing more or changing it.
You're never totally happy with it.
Never happy with it.
I mean, the same with the editing side of things and the filming side of things. It's like
there's always more that can be done.
Yeah. You're never finished with a film. You just run out of time.
Yes. Yeah.
Even if it's not a film race, that's just kind of how it is in any project you work on. It's like eventually, unless it's just like something you're doing for yourself, eventually there's a deadline and you run out of time. You just have to say, okay, I'm done. Okay, which film race was the most challenging, would you say?
Most challenging has to be what we just did, 1,000 Deaths.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think because the vision of the costume came really quickly and easily to me, and I already had something in mind because I had found it thrifting like years ago, and I just knew it was like a huge piece that I could do something really amazing with. So like that part wasn't as challenging. I would say Capsule would be more challenging for that factor, but all in all, this was more challenging because one, I made the collar wrong and I didn't realize it till like, we're filming. So that was frustrating because I just wanted to go home and fix it. The suit of armor, I'm thinking, cool, I'll just figure out how to, attach it and get it on our actor. It like barely, I don't know who this would have fit. Worried about tetanus on Vish. Like I was just like, the poor guy, like he couldn't get in the car with it. So going to different locations, it had to come off and on and off and on.
To be fair, I don't know that a knight in an actual suit of armor would also be able to get in a car. So
well, yeah, they didn't have to worry about it. We should have rented a horse. Shoot.
Could have just gotten some horses to ride around to different sets. That would have taken even longer, though. I think we would have run out of time.
Probably. Literally racing against the clock. So, like, there was that one time where I didn't know we needed the cloak still. Oh, yeah. We didn't have it. I was like, oh.
So what do you do in a situation like that when you, like, don't have something that you need?
Like, learn to improvise quickly. We didn't need it to be the exact same one. I think just the silhouette of it helped, or it was like, well, it could be a different day. It doesn't have to be this was the same outfit, things like that. So we kind of just had to figure it out on the fly, which comes with it. You just,
because we've had that happen on other shoots where it's like, okay, well, we don't have this piece. Can you just shoot this in a way that you don't see this as much, or it's not as prominent, or can you light it a little bit differently? So you made this amazing costume on 1,000 Deaths, made the suit of armor somehow work, and then coordinated everything else because we had a couple other like crew / cast members bring medieval Renaissance type costumes that they had. So then what was that like, working with their stuff that you didn't already know and collaborating? And
well, I was very thankful that they had those hobbies and collections, because I definitely would not have been able to source that in that amount of time. Like I knew Brian had the suit of armor, great, but then to know DL had all these other really great pieces and accessories, and then Steve had stuff to kind of fill in the holes with like different types of shirts, or like there was a really great undergarment he had for Vish to wear under the armor, because I didn't even think of that. It's like, that wasn't in the front of my head. I was so focused on the gown and Amanda's character, and he had just other little things here and there, like belts, hats. It was nice to have a lot of options to kind of narrow down with what other people could bring, because the film definitely would not have been what it was without the other things that you think aren't as important or like as big of a deal and like needed, like a queen gown, but it's those pieces that cohesively make it all come, you know, and look like an authentic piece of
like
film. Yeah, historically accurate. Yeah, so it was really great that they were able to bring that stuff.
And something about that too was that because Steve was acting in the film and DL was acting in the film, you already knew that those pieces fit them. So you could just go that. And I think that's something that's really useful as you work on film races, especially if you're like new to making short films or doing film races, is like tap into your the costumes and resources and props and different things that your actors might have, because that's only going to make it easier for you to get them in wardrobe.
And you can spend more time on other things that need attention.
Yeah, and spend more time on hero props or hero costumes. Yeah. And that's one thing that's like, let's say underneath it, like the spacesuit. You just like put together like a black suit made out of just like some pieces of like leggings. And
it was like like a base, you know, like like a spacesuit long john almost.
And then you put that hood on.
The hood and like the little mic she had. Because you have to think about the like functionally what are the other layers of this costume and will they need to be filmed.
You really have to communicate then with your actors, like to tell them what to wear, even if it's not going to be seen. Because if you have your actors show up and they're just wearing like jeans, and you try and put like a snug thing over top of jeans, that's not going to work. So it's important to like communicate with your actors and let them know to bring a lot of options. And also it's always good for actors to have like a tight fitting, some sort of like either one piece suit or like leggings and a tighter
tank top,
something. And in different colors if possible too, because like a neutral color or something that's close to skin tone will pretty much go under anything without causing issues.
Same thing also applies to just modern day, just streetwear. If there's no real costuming, it's just more of a wardrobing task and coordinating things. It's really great for actors to bring probably more than they think is necessary. So the more options, the better, for sure. One, because you don't know what they have, and if they think it's something that's perfect, it might not be what's within your vision. Color options is a big deal because, you know, you might have in your head, oh, your hair color, skin color, whatever, this will look great on you and look great on camera. But if it's like something like a hunter green and then they're on a bench in front of all this dark green shrubbery, that's not going to look great. There was actually one time with Steve where he had this really beautiful like cable knit sweater and I just liked it in general. And I was like, okay, it looks good on him. I think this will be great for this, you know, we haven't worn it yet and you need a different outfit to, you know, look like it's a different day to translate that. So I was like, we haven't done this yet and I really want you to be in it because it's a really nice looking piece. So let's put you in it for this. And it was when he was standing in front of the white door and it was like an ivory cream off-white sweater. And I was like, nope. And I was like, Brian, wait, don't do anything. And then I think Luke actually like ran back to your house to grab a dark blue something else Steve had. Okay. So, which is another like wear many hats. Luke was another actor, but he just wasn't in front of the camera for that moment. And he, you know, we all just do whatever we need to do Teamwork. To, you know, we were also racing the sunset at that point. So I was like, no, we need a different sweater.
The director needs to trust their wardrobe person to kind of help make some of those decisions. But then also like, sometimes it might just be like, you know what? That sounds amazing, but we just don't have time. And sometimes you just have to compromise.
Yeah. With streetwear or just modern day clothing where, you know, the design aspect isn't needed necessarily. It's definitely not as fulfilling or fun, but it's also like nice to, you know, have years where it isn't so design heavy. It's more, you know, plot or whatever it is. 'Cause we also I don't know, like every year there's definitely like different weight to each thing, which is nice because you definitely don't want to be a team that's like, that's your thing is like, oh, every year they have like an elaborate off the wall weird costume or like
but no
the music
substance.
is
Yeah.
nuts and so crazy good, but that right, like there's
Yeah.
there's nothing else good about it.
Yeah.
So it's I like that about you guys. Like there's definitely, whatever the initial brainchild is of the concept of the film, it's there's something that can be highlighted differently each year, kind of, which is it's good because it gives more variety, I think, to the work too. It's
probably just like our ADD brains. We're like, we need something different now.
That's
something different here.
So yeah, it's nice because those are the years where I get to learn a little bit more with other hats that get to be worn, where other people need help with their duties. So it's cool to gain those experiences when I'm not sewing half the time and then only on set when my costume's on set, or I don't have to be home as much to be doing the work. I can actually be on set more from the beginning and be around it and exposed to the different things. So it's always like fun, obviously, but it's definitely more fulfilling personally when it's a big build from scratch, design, creative job. My like off the bat questions for people who are looking for a costumer or wardrobe person are typically like, what is your budget? Is it paid or volunteered? If it's worthwhile for volunteer, or like it's good for your portfolio or just good experience as you're learning things, that's absolutely like valuable. But if you're getting to the part where you're more experienced and you are getting to understand your worth, is more than just volunteering like a whole day of all your effort and then it's not really worth portfolio or something, like just calibrating that as you continue to grow your skill set. Like a first meeting with like, what's the vision? What exactly do you need from me? Just knowing what you're getting into first for the project before you just jump in and say yes, and the ball's rolling and you're stuck in something that is not worth your time or something that is not what you thought it would be, or you're not as good as this, not as good, but it's not where your creativity is best used.
I mean, that's why like film races are great to like try out. You could kind of put up with anything for like a day, right? If it's like, okay, that team was terrible, I don't want to work with them again. Okay, it was still just a day rather than like weekend after weekend after weekend, or month after month. Yeah. Right. So that's knowing the time commitment is good. Filmmakers that don't know anything about costuming, or someone that might be like maybe hasn't considered doing costuming, but like it could be something that they're like never really thought about. Oh, maybe that's something I could do. So any tips for someone that's like doesn't really have any experience with that but might be considering?
Definitely just not to be too wrapped up in being scared to do it, or like thinking I can't do that. I mean, everyone's got a place where they begin, and no one has any kind of skill or talent that just appeared. Like it's got to be cultivated and practiced, and you really just learn as you go. I mean, there's so many reasons that I wouldn't have thought of this without past projects I've worked on, or without I don't know, like even I think I found the curtains I made this with when I was shopping for something else. Oh, nice. So it's like just let yourself go out there and ask around. If there are places where they might need a person to do that, just go inquire. I mean, the worst they can say is no. That's what I did. I called around everywhere I could in Frederick. And that's how I started with Maryland Ensemble Theater. And, even if it's like a tiny, small thing where it's just like, we need a t-shirt decorated, it's still a starting point. And then you get to meet new people, you network, you make relationships that later will pull you in for other projects. I mean, just got to get out there first.
I think it's also important to, like, you're a great example of this, is like you're always creating things just like for your kids, or for like Halloween costumes, or just for birthday parties, or for fun. Like you're just always creating these unique things that, whether they're just for your own personal use or they're something you're going to put like out there to sell to someone, or you're just always creating and always working on projects. And I think that's an important part too, is like to always be having something to create. And sometimes it's hard to self-motivate. But if it's something that you can, you know, maybe get some people to commission you on things, even if you're just making like a few bucks, or it's just like they're just paying for the materials, it still could give you a little bit of practice and you know, work your way up. Like you said, you have to like cultivate that. You have to practice that to get good at it.
And even if you like don't know much about sewing and want to, I mean, this day and age too, it's like so many tutorials out there. I mean, you can go to Goodwill. I have a problem with it. There's tons of vintage sewing machines at Goodwills. Like there's almost too many, and they should just be at my house.
How many sewing machines do you have right now?
I'd have to take a minute to count. But I did get rid of some. I did donate some, and I got.
And then you bought more, right?
Well, I got a bunch serviced so that they actually work again, and they're like, because that was part of it. It's like something would go wrong, but it would be like 1 a.m. and I'd have to go to Walmart to just get a like a beat up machine. Yeah, like a beater machine. So just to get the job finished, and that's how Matt used to call it, my sewing machine graveyard. And I was like, no, they're gonna work again one day. It's fine. But yeah, just, go for it with like looking at videos and, or even just seeing, like dry cleaners. There's usually tailors there, reaching out there and saying like, do you teach lessons, or would you teach lessons? And just experimenting. I mean, there's lots of patterns you can get that are pretty self-explanatory. They're not very, complicated, and you kind of just grow and learn from there, with more difficult things. There's so much I've been brought in to a team to make or think of or design, even if I don't make it. And it's just really cool to think, wow, this never would have happened if I hadn't met this person or hadn't asked that question of, do you need extra help to whatever? So just putting yourself out there and doing some research and
trying things.
Yeah, just trying different things and never being afraid to like do something different, there was a point where I had to make something look dirty, and I put beer in a water gun and just shot at it on the dress form, and coffee, and I think something else, I don't know, but it like really did really well. Like it read so great on film, and it looked weathered and old and dingy and dirty, and I mean, you just have to think outside the box and do stuff that isn't so expected, I guess. Like get to the part where, how do I make something look this way, and just kind of work your way backwards, even if it seems crazy, like shooting beer out of a water gun.
Tons of these types of film races, like in cities all over the world. And a lot of times there are places where you can go either online or in person to meet other teams. And most people that go to those sort of networking events to meet other teams, they're probably not going to be costumers. They're probably not going to be wardrobe people. They're going to be like actors or someone that wants to help with camera. And so if you put yourself out there, you might be able to pick from a few teams and decide like what team you want to work with. Costumes and wardrobe is necessary, but it usually just gets pushed on someone else. It might be the director bringing the costumes from their house, or it might be someone like the camera guy is trucking it around. It ends up being someone that maybe shouldn't be doing that. So if you don't have like someone that's a costume person or a wardrobe person, and especially if you're doing like modern day and you just need someone to like be in charge of the costumes, like that can also just be a good way to like get someone that's a friend that maybe they're not real, maybe that's not really what they want to do, but it's still an important job and it's still something that would be good. Like maybe maybe your mom sews and she's willing to just hang out on set and like fix things, or just hold on to the costumes. Like that can be it is an important job. So if you are lucky enough to have like a wardrobe person, awesome. If not, it's still a good way to maybe bring a friend in that could help out. Thank you, Steph, for joining me today to talk about this super important topic. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Film Race series.